Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today I'm going to make a start on a big building project that's long overdue. Yup, it's my supermarket. Now for my supermarket, I'm not going to be building a great big out-of-town job that's really huge with long aisles and loads of shopping carts and trolleys going up and down with loads of diversity of products and so on because, well, I just don't have the space, quite frankly. And keeping with my design rule of density, I'm going to do a much smaller affair limited to one base plate that's more of a sort of urban supermarket or kind of mini market, I suppose. And by making it a modular format, I can have other things in all the floors above it as well, making, well, best use of the space really. Now, if we go all the way back to April 2020, I submitted my first MOC modular, the fast food corner, and that raced its way to 10,000 votes on Lego Ideas and qualified for, well, judging to become a real life set. Now, they do take their time at Lego, so it wasn't judged until January 2021, and unfortunately it wasn't successful, probably because it was a modular, let's face it. But then, as a reward for doing that sort of thing and for qualifying with a 10,000 vote submission, you get a reward, a gift from Lego of a couple of sets. So by the time I got round to that, it was about May 2021. It was pre the summer releases of that year. So there wasn't a great deal sort of available that I really wanted. But, you know, I had 2 free sets. So you're going to pick some big ones, right? So I went and chose the corner garage, or corner garage as we probably call it in the UK, as one of my sets because it was one of the modulars that I didn't have to date. Now, the reason why I hadn't got it is because, well, it's not my favourite. I really like the dark orange element, although I'm not a massive fan of these sort of cracks that show some of the build detail. But I'm not a great fan of the garage on the bottom, just because I think it's kind of out of keeping and kind of out of a UK look, really. But anyway, given it was free, I thought, yeah, I'll definitely have one of those. But what shall I get for my second set? I didn't have much imagination, so, well, I got a second one as well. Now, I've already ditched the second garage, because I definitely can't use that by stacking everything on top of each other, and I've also ditched the second roof. I haven't worried about changing any of the interiors, so we have got 2 complete duplicates of the apartment at the top and of the vet's practice halfway up. But that does allow me to really achieve good density by having, well, a 5-story plus roof space building. And that is dense, I think you'll agree. So one of the problems that we'll come to later after replacing the garage on the ground floor with a supermarket is what on earth to do with these 4 floors, because I definitely don't need 2 vets. And, well, I'm not a massive fan of residential, as you know, so I'm not sure I want 2 apartments either. So 1-minute review, first of all, of the corner garage set. Pluses, I think, as I say, are the wonderful colour and the nice sort of geometry of the build. It's kind of a bit like the one we just did, the Boutique Hotel, and it's got some really interesting angles going on. So I like that very much. The colour scheme, not just this orange, but these lovely sand blue windows are absolutely fantastic. And you'll note that everything I'm talking about is really on the top floors, which is why I like them the most. Now, we do have some real sort of issues on the back, which I'm never a massive fan of when they're over an area that's not going to be hidden by an adjacent modular. But my biggest problem with it really is not only these exposed sort of innards that you can kind of see. I mean, why couldn't we make some of these in dark orange and it would have completely hidden it? But really, it's the mixed zoning. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean, we've got a garage which will have all its pollution from all these sort of petrol and oil and so on. Then we've got a vet with, one would presume, bio waste from, well, treating animals and the odd one that doesn't make it, sadly. And then we've got residential on top of that. So you just think, what? Who would want to live above a biohazard that is itself above a chemical hazard? So yeah, that's why I never really liked it. It kind of just didn't really sort of work in my mind. And that's before we get to the really sort of open stairs on the inside, where to go up to the vet's practice or to your home, you kind of have to walk directly through a garage. So when we do the supermarket, I think I will keep this door for access to higher floors, but I'll definitely be doing something a lot better with the stairway, which it's just it's ridiculous. Who's walked through a garage to get to their home? Anyway, right, so we've already ditched garage 1, of which the bricks, the dark green ones, went into my Flying Knotsman for a start. So I'll start by binning this second garage and then focusing on the remaining floors here. Don't worry, I didn't actually bin any real Lego. I do realise you can take it apart and turn it into something completely different. Anyway, there is the top part of what will be our building. Once we've sort of changed probably the second window there and a few other things, I do think we want to replicate this pattern that's on that floor and that floor on here, for instance, and I've got the parts to do that. I don't mind the fact that we've got sort of balcony flowers, because that seems quite realistic. So yeah, very little to do to this in the short term, but in order to make this a supermarket, just kind of put it on here for now, then essentially I want to make best use of space, as I've said, and therefore the main thing I want to do is to kind of square off this building like that, so I can use this space as well rather than just having a triangular footprint. And that will mean that when I've done my new ground floor, there will kind of be a triangular hole in the roof, won't there, right in front of this bit. So really I need to do kind of a extra segment of roof that you can either lift out with, on its own, or with this lower floor. And I think that's what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to basically redo this entire bottom as it looks now, but kind of the second floor up from the ground, so it incorporates this new sort of overhang bit first, so that I know exactly what footprint I've got to deal with, and essentially I can have it as a nice big veranda or balcony type sort of section on this second floor. And as a result, I think I'm going to have to make some more changes so, the minifigures who use this floor can access that new area. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of rip out the middle section of this wall and kind of put in a pair of double doors, which can kind of open like that and look rather fantastic. And maybe we can continue the sort of vibe we've got going on the roof with some umbrellas, lounges and tables and chairs and all the rest of it out there as well. So it's a really nice place. And one sort of early thought I had for what this building could be, because I mean it's quite large, or at least one floor of it could be, is the Alien Cantina. Now that has its positives and its negatives. First of all, it doesn't look anything like you'd expect an Alien Cantina to look. So that's a bad point. But then maybe it would be in disguise so people didn't know it was there. But then bad point again, if I've got loads of aliens on a veranda, it's going to be quite visible, isn't it? So anyway, in the long run, I'm definitely going to need ideas for what to use these 4 floors for. But yeah, I'm going to make a start on squaring off that floor today. So I've got absolutely loads of parts for the supermarket itself. 3, 4, 5 bags of all sorts of stuff, loads of stock and interesting parts you can see in there, or these watermelons and so on. But I've pulled out already from them this quantity, which I'm going to need to do this development to this floor. And I think that this little sort of sub-build would look good anyway, because I mean, doesn't this building look quite good as it is right now? Sort of just mounted directly to the floor. You'd probably want to move this balcony up to that floor, so that didn't look so weird. But if you just put in a double door here, you can kind of have that as being the main access to the street. So we can see how that will look as well. So I'm going to get started. And what I'm going to have to do, I think, is basically rip the existing floor and all the contents off this one and kind of reattach the building parts to the new one once I've got the new sort of footprint in place. And it's going to be made really complicated by this diagonal bit over here, where I'm going to have to sort of have tiles underneath here, I think. And I don't want it looking too chunky. So yeah, it's not going to be that easy. So let's get started. Okay, so not too bad. I pulled off all of the walls in one piece, pretty much. The windows all fell in at one end, but nonetheless, I can put that back together quite easily. Got all the interior stuff over here, and that just leaves me with the old floor that we need to square off, while still keeping this sympathetic to that diagonal angle of the wall. Cool. All right, so this is the first step, and I've changed quite a bit, even though it probably just looks like I've added a few pieces on the bottom, but I've changed most of this structure slightly just to accommodate all my future plans. But yeah, the biggest obvious change is that I've made this now an additional plate thick, which I'm hoping will blend into the floor below a little bit, so it won't look so chunky when it's finished. And that's to accommodate two sorts of plates. One is the one that's got two studs on a 2x2, and the other one is the one that's got four studs on a 4x4. You can see they're starting to jut out here, and I'm going to be adding more in like that, that, and that. And that's so we've got a very sort of smooth area along this diagonal and along this line here, because if I just put this on top of here for now, you'll see that this overhang that's got the bricks studs on the side sort of build technique here, and this overhang requires something kind of smooth to bind with, or rather not bind with, sit on. So it'll basically be kind of like that. So I'm not going to push it down now, but you see that that studs on the side bit is resting on there, and that is going to be resting on there without it actually being connected. So when I've filled in the additional gaps with these as well, it'll all marry up very well like that, but I can continue it out with studs after that, and then I can focus on changing this wall afterwards. So I'm actually going to need a fourth layer, which I'm going to do in light bluish grey, which will kind of hold all of those bits together. So we're going to have quite a chunky floor, but I think that's probably a good thing for when we're taking apart the modular. We don't want it being rickety. So yeah, I'll keep going. So there's my completed footprint. I've got a nice sort of rounded corner on the bottom, which will be the corner pointing at the front of the modular itself. And then I'm going to add the kind of same piece that's on the inside here on the outside as a step down, because you'll be coming out of some double doors on the diagonal onto this flat area. So I figured that will not only add some strength on the top level, but also look quite good when we've got the wall in the middle. So if you can imagine, when I put this back on like that, it's very delicate at the moment, you'll come out of a double door here onto that step and then onto the greater balcony. So yeah, both strength and form. Lovely. All right, so that's the floor layer done, and I've got the extra sort of light bluish grey sort of plates holding it all together, so it's very strong indeed. It's not going anywhere, and I will be able to put all four of the stories sort of on top of this and lift them all off in one go without fear of it collapsing when we've got our supermarket underneath. And we've got a lot more floor area, as you can see, because that's the kind of old floor area, and this is the new one for the supermarket. So next we'll be adding the walls back onto there, and it'll all fit quite snugly. You can see that these bits are fitting over the tiled bits. I will be removing, first of all, though, this central section, because I'll be replacing that with the double doors, of course, and then I can add my last plate here, which will kind of be another step on top of there, which won't fit at the moment, just because I'm going to need to sort of cut back into that. So yeah, let's get started with the walls, and we can do the frontage. Okay, so all these walls are pushed down, but I've removed this middle section and replaced the 1x8 plates in tan by these 1x4 ones, so they're a lot shorter, so I've got this gap in the middle. And I need to also modify these sort of bits on the brackets by taking off that and replacing it with a curved slope and a cheese wedge piece, kind of upside down like that. And that will go then back and will allow for the space I needed for that step. So I can put that on next. And that means that we're going, well, flat across the doorway, and then we've got kind of two tiny steps down onto the outside level. So that looks really good as well. Then I can add back my pillars. And I took out a lot of 1x1 bricks in this dark orange that I'll probably be able to use later, actually. But you do need more of these 1x2s in order to do the columns either side of these windows, because we've removed that entire sort of bricks on the side, whole sort of technique bit, so there aren't enough bricks in the original build. Then we can put these two back on and finally introduce our new double door section with the original sort of tiles all along the top, but with these 1x2 modified plates with the rail underneath, kind of like a doorstep. And then that can, oh no, I put those on prematurely. And that can be lowered in there and go in that lovely gap that we just made. And link up very seamlessly with our top step. And how about that for a double doors onto the balcony that will be above the supermarket? I think that looks really good. It's very in keeping with the original building. We've got another tan stripe, sort of top and bottom, as we kind of did before. We've kept with the sand blue frames, and that curve in towards the door isn't a problem at all, really. So yeah, and the steps nice and visible, being the same colour as the inside. So I think that'll be a wonderful balcony for my second floor above my supermarket. But I also think that if you imagine this light bluish grey layer here as being a base plate, and then this dark bluish grey layer as being your sort of tiles, because you do need to have it being smooth in certain places for it to fit, then this could just be the ground floor of the building. And you could just have all the other ones going up from this and just have got rid of the garage in its entirety and just leave the rest of the building relatively unchanged, because I think this is a lot better entrance, a lot grander. That would look really nice if it was the ground floor. Move the balcony up to a higher level and replace it with one of those window boxes, and you'd be pretty much there, I think. So maybe we should take a look at that before I start adding any more detail to the outsides. Now, whether or not you're going to raise this up later and put it right on top of a supermarket or not, I think this double door modification really fixes the corner garage building. Obviously it's not really a corner garage anymore, because that's the first thing we did, get rid of the garage itself, but what we're left with is a lovely uniform dark orange and sand blue building that looks rather fantastic if you ask me, very bright with the flowers and so on, and that double door on the bottom works really well. Now I've changed the flat tiles that were on the bottom of the vet floor for the more patterned ones, just so we've got that repeating as well. And if I wasn't going to mount this a floor higher on top of a supermarket, I would swap around these and these for each floor. So we still had it alternating, but without one on the ground floor, because that does look a bit odd. But what I'm going to do now to finish off part one of my supermarket, without having started a supermarket whatsoever, is put on the boundary to the balcony, some seats and so on, so it's all finished and looking rather wonderful. But if you did want to just stop at this point and put this building straight into your city, well, you really could. It's looking great. What do you think? Alright, so those familiar with my channel, who've also watched my boutique hotel video, will know why now I was talking about being in a bit of a quandary as to whether I should use up that corner for the boutique hotel, because this corner building was the one that was going to go on that exact spot, and now I'm a bit torn as to whether it should go there after all, or whether we should keep the hotel there. But let's finish this building before we decide anything. But what I'm going to do first of all is use all those 1x1 bricks that I liberated from the old frontage and combine them with some of these nice railings to make a nice boundary, because obviously with this being one story off the ground above my supermarket, we'll need to protect everyone who's using it from falling off. So it might look a bit odd to start with. And you could even do this on the one just mounted on the ground floor. You just move a section or just have a little bit that's a gate or something like that. It still might look rather nice, because a lot of city centre buildings often do have sort of private open areas fenced off, just so members of the public don't kind of help themselves. And another curved one on the end. So that's the balcony enclosed. And then just to brighten it up and to continue the sort of flower kind of theme that we've had on the higher sections, just thought I'd put a small planter in there and a much bigger one down here, say about there. That'll do. So that's looking nice, same flowers and everything else. And then, well, I thought somebody would probably want to have a nice table with an umbrella, which also I've sort of picked to match a bit the flower colours, and get some nice sort of tall stools. And if we do make this an alien cantina, then we can have a lot more wacky scenes going on the outside with really bizarre looking aliens, though they really shouldn't be in plain sight, of course. But that idea might work really well because we've got 4 internal floors to play with. So we could even have the top one having this whole roof sort of hinged or something like that to allow a spaceship to land. And maybe we could have all sorts of alien antics going on the inside. But for now, I just thought I'd make a couple more sort of lounge chairs just to loosely put on the top to match the one where the sunbather is. And then, well, part 1 of the supermarket without a single shelf or aisle or checkout desk made is done. Wow. It's been a bit of a marathon actually, to be honest, but I'm really, really happy with how it looks. I'm almost tempted to stop there and just put this building as it is in my city, but I think it'll be even better when this is raised up one and we've got a whole shop level underneath. Yeah, looking good though. So as always, do tell me what you think of this build, and do tell me if you've got any ideas for any improvements, because I'm always really interested to hear them, and they do make my builds generally a lot better. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. Do check out the links in the description below. Membership of my YouTube channel is only $1.99 a month and really goes a long way. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing another mock build on Monday, Wednesday a brick haul as usual, and then next Friday I figure we should come back and do another episode of this, where we might build some part of an actual supermarket. Anyway, until all of that, see you! Big Robin smash!